for you. Yes, we'll get through those. Just speak as much as you like. Some people get, apologize for rambling on, but as much information you can give, that's perfect. So I'll do the
Definitely.
intro, and then we can get started. Hi guys, welcome back to the Footy Fans podcast. Today we are joined by a very special guest in John Hollinger. How are you doing, John?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So, like I said, we've got a few questions for you just to talk about your journey, your career. So to begin with, if you could just let the listeners know sort of who you are, who you play for, your level, position, and just a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's that's a loaded question, asking like who you are, right? So who am I? John Hollinger. I'm 26 years old. I'm from the US, from Northern Virginia. And I'm a goalkeeper as well, but I'm also currently right now I'm not with the team, working that out at the moment right now. But who am I? I mean, I'm a son, right? I've my family. I'm a child of God, right, as well. I'm a person too, right? So, just someone who, loves to connect, but as well as, just grow every single day, right? And help others as well, within football, within life, because we can go through things. So, just being a light for others is really, who I am and what I like to do as well. So yeah.
That's great. So you mentioned you don't have a team at the moment. Before we get into that, what is your first footballing memory?
So for me, I grew up playing soccer just, with friends. But one in particular, one of my first soccer memories was when me and I have a twin brother, and he was playing midfield in our first ever house league game, and we were both 9 years old. And I remember him just scoring a penalty kick goal, and it was it was just, I don't know why that just stuck out to me. That was one of my first memories, so I'm a goalkeeper, so just seeing it from the other side of the pitch was pretty cool. So yeah.
And how's your career progressed from that first memory to now? Just let us know the journey you've been through.
Definitely. Wow. So that's from 9 until 26. So that has been, that's 17 years, and lots of, ups and downs, right? I just started playing football. We call it soccer here in America, but just for the joy of the game, I loved it. Me and my brother, we were just so energetic, and, we needed something to, put our energy out. And we just played here for our local teams here in Northern Virginia, and really progressed, and it wasn't until about high school, right? That was a big goal of mine, and my brother's, is to make our high school team, so, we just kept moving up the ranks here. And then after high school, right? Like usually when you set a goal and you achieve it, then you want the next goal, right? So after JV, we, made varsity. And then after that, okay, I want to play in college because I want to play, professionally. So ended up playing Division I college soccer here in the United States. It was called Canisius College in Buffalo, New York. So I went there and then played college soccer at another university as well. And then after that, just really wanted to continue my playing career, right? Because it was always a dream of mine, and I think the moment when I knew like I really wanted to play pro was when I was playing, I got to train with the MLS Academy here in Washington, D.C., called DC United Academy. And they let some of the academy players be ball boys at the game, so for me, I'm like, heck yeah, I'll do that. So I was about 15 years old, and I would go behind Bill Hamid's net. He was the starting goalie for DC United at the time, and him and a couple other goalkeepers too at that time. And yeah, it was just amazing, stadium, thousands of people. And, I'm right behind, literally, a couple meters, from the goal, just watching it. And then, seeing my family there and everything. And I was like, man, this is amazing. I want to be right there, so that was my goal. So I continued to progress and, played in the college, through college here in the US. And then after, did some combines, some pro combines. I wasn't like a very like highly recruited, by any means, highly recruited into college, or even after my college career, highly recruited by, in the professional ranks at all. Really, I really had to do, a lot of work, as well as, build relationships with other people, that could help me, because, sometimes we say, oh, I did this by myself, but like, it really takes, a lot more than just yourself. And when you realize that you can, the relationships that you build and the people that can, that can also help aid you in that process, it's very important. So, yeah, I did some pro combines after here in the US, and built more connections, and ended up going to play overseas in Sweden in 2018 for a year and a half. Played with two different clubs out there in Sweden, and then after that, this past year, Northern Ireland in 2020. So yeah, now I'm back here in the States, looking to get picked up by a team here in the States for this year to further my career, and just enjoying the process. It's definitely it could be a daily grind, right? But it's also like, yeah, I've also heard of it as like, all right, your perspective is it's a daily grind, but also a daily find, right? Like, what can you find in each and every day to grow, to get better, and just overall, in your footballing, but also as a person too, right? So yeah, now I'm back here in Virginia. I'm actually talking to a few clubs, looking to solidify very soon, and just further, my playing career, the gift. We all have gifts, right? So like, that God gives us, and I believe we should max out those gifts, right? And our gift isn't for ourselves, right? It's not for ourselves, it's for others, so like, just, playing for his glory and for others, to impact others. That's what I love to do. So right now I'm enjoying football, and yeah, that's without going into too much detail, that's how I've gotten to where I am right now. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's quite, you've said you've moved to multiple different countries to follow your dream, and you're saying now, you're not at a club, but it's just that every day going again, working hard to make the best version of yourself. And I think that's really inspirational, that despite the fact that at the moment you aren't in a club setting, you're still waiting for that, that opportunity to be solidified, but you're still working every day to make sure you're the best version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. And it's like this, like, it's very, I actually used to do this, right? I used to like put whether it's my identity or my feelings, right? My emotions, whether I was happy or sad, angry or frustrated or joyful, right? Um, Based on results. So if I was playing good in soccer, I was feeling good. If I played poorly or the team played poorly, we had bad results, didn't feel good, like frustrated, angry, whatever. And then, you come to a point where you realize it's like football cannot be our identity, because like those ups and downs are going to always, they will happen, so even if you're without a club, that shouldn't dictate really how you feel overall, because people can see it, people can really see it. And it shows that, like, I know it's hard, right? I know it's hard, but where's the foundation, right? The foundation, so yeah, like in the Bible, it says, the wise man who built his foundation on the rock, which is the word of God, right? The wise man who built his foundation on the rock, the storms came, the winds came, right? And the house stood firm, versus the other man who built his house on the sand, right? A foundation that is built on sand. The storms came, the winds came, and the house fell down, right? It broke. So it's the same thing with us, right? And how we live. It's like, what is your foundation? Is it a rock, right? Which is, it says the Lord is the rock, is my rock, his words. And no matter what happens, like, I have that foundation, so even if I, have a poor performance in a game, or don't make a team, or get cut, or, anything like that, you got to have that firm foundation to just keep, because it will help you keep going, not to say though that, like, it completely ignored that we are humans too, right? Like, we go through emotions sometimes, right? We go through things, but when I don't place my identity in football, it's a lot more freeing, right? It's, like, anything can happen and I will win, essentially, So yeah, that's pretty much it right there.
Yeah, and you're
So
right that people do let football dictate their lives. Even if you're not a player, even if you're just watching it, your mood swings depending on the
mm,
success or failures, even if you're not playing. So I think you're right. You do just have to sort of have that groundwork of your mood and your feelings, and not let, a sport, obviously it's important to you, it's a big part of your life, but you can't let it
mhm,
affect you so much that destroys your entire emotions.
mhm. Of course. I mean, there's even, you know, kids, commit suicide, over not making a football, like, U18s. I saw this one 18-year-old, I think he was with Manchester City Academy. He
Mm.
didn't make the first team and committed suicide, and it's like, there is so much more to life. Like, your life is not worth taking, for this football, for this sport. Yeah, I understand, like, it's everything that we do every single day. Like, for me, breathe, eat, sleep, this sport, everyone I interact with around it every single day, constantly thinking about it too. But it's, there's so much more, there's so much more to life than football. Um, so yeah, just see that, and just, yeah.
Definitely. So throughout your career, you've mentioned you have played in various countries. Where did you have the best experiences when playing?
Mm. Excuse me. So I really so I played over in Sweden, right, in Northern Ireland, and actually a little bit in Denmark. But I would say for sure, like, I really enjoyed playing in Sweden, and particularly Malmo. Um, that's in the southern part of Sweden. It's I played for Malmo City FC over there. It was a Division 3 club in Sweden in 2019. And yeah, I really enjoyed it over there. It's a really cool city, really cool culture. Um, and I had a good season over there as well. And yeah, I really enjoyed it over there.
Yeah, what was a standout experience? Was there like a trophy won, a big game where you played particularly well?
Mhm.
What was the standout moment while there?
Well, I would say the standout moment was probably right before the mid-season break. We were really fighting to push to, first of all, that club was probably, I heard about the predictions at the beginning of the year. We were predicted to actually get in the relegation zone. Um, but then I came in and we really, we started off not so good in the first few games, but as the season progressed, right before the mid-season point, we went on a big winning streak. I think it was about seven or eight games like undefeated. And there was one game in particular against our rivals. Yeah, it was against our rivals, and that are also from Malmo, and um, we we ended up winning by one goal. And the thing that stood out to me was, um, even though we went down early 1-0, we came back 1-1 at halftime. But with experience, you can kind of see how the game is unfolding, right? And I knew like we were gonna win this game. I knew we were gonna win this game, and just by the way the game was unfolding, I could definitely see how we were the better team on the day. Um, and I remember the ball boy. So every time I love talking, sometimes to the ball boys, whether that's at the end of the match. Obviously I'm focused, on the game, just because like we were saying before, like I remember that was me behind the goal, when I was 15 years old. So um I remember in particular I was running onto the pitch for the second start of the second half, and the ball boy asked me, he's like, "Hey, do you think you're gonna win?" And I was like, "Yes." And then he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "I know we are gonna win." And then we ended up scoring very late in the game, about 90th minute, and then in the 90th plus 8, they had a 1v1, and I saved it, and then we won the game. So in that moment, the final whistle blew. We won 2-1 against our rivals, and we moved up, I think into about third place on the table, which was, very, we were a very underdog team to be that. We had no business being that high in the table. And then at the end of the game, I saw the bubble and I said, "I told you so. I told you we were going to win." So yeah, no, that felt great. That felt really good. So, and yeah, that was definitely a moment.
Yeah, and it's those great moments that you sort of have to take that opportunity where you're feeling great, because obviously sometimes in football negative stuff does happen. What would you say is the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome footballing wise?
Hmm. Wow. Great question. Um, let's see here. Greatest obstacle I have to come over, football wise. I would say like, so as a goalkeeper, only one can play, right?
Yeah.
So um initially when I got over to Sweden, I mean, and it was just in general, right? I haven't been a number one starter my whole life, even throughout college. Only one can play at the end of the day, and I think a very tough time for me in my footballing career was, just times where I got I got cut. I didn't make. I had went over to Denmark for a month and a half and just going on trial out there. Thinking I was going to make the team and sign, and then not signing was very tough. And then making my move over to Sweden, there was moments where I was the second, I wasn't the starter. But then just in an instance like that, I became the starter. Um, so any moment you got to be ready, so yeah, I would say, just always be ready because, even during your greatest obstacle, right? You can have an opportunity just come up right away for you. So yeah, I think those at the time were my biggest obstacles because I think maybe even myself, because I put a little too much of my identity in football, that I was very like into it to where it was like, okay, if I don't start or if I don't do this, then I can't achieve my next goals, right? And maybe it got to me a little too much, Um, so yeah, I would say definitely, even despite your obstacles, like there's always an opportunity that can come from them, So
100%. And was it, obviously you said that keeping that sort of faith that there will be an opportunity, was that the main thing that got you through it, or was there anything else that helped you deal with the challenge of not being able to start all the time?
hmm oh yeah. Yeah, for me it was definitely my faith, right? I mean, if you know who God is and his characteristics, one of them is like he will relentlessly pursue you no matter what. And like, you know, that is, kind of like the approach, that like I think for me, it's like always having a hope, that things won't end, things will keep going if I keep going, right? God is persistent with me. God is persistent with us as people on this earth. And like, so it's like, for me, like I just kept that faith, um, and to just keep being persistent and working hard and enjoying enjoying the process at the same time, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So at the moment, you've obviously said you're not currently in a team setup at the moment. So what is a typical day for you like at the moment?
Yeah, for me, a typical day is still like I'm still, getting up 6:30, 7 a.m. or so. Um, I get my breakfast. Usually my breakfast actually is just water and coffee. Lots of water and a cup of coffee because, for me, I like to be light in the morning. I've been doing some intermittent fasting and whatnot. It's again, person to person, some people need their breakfast, um, and yeah, man, I get up and I do my mobility, stretching and foam rolling, usually right when I wake up, and thanking the Lord, obviously getting in my, whether that's just, talking with him, what, doesn't have to be too formal, my prayer, getting in the spirit and reading the word and things like that. So that's how I usually start off my day. It's like it's my routine because like it's helping me set up for the day, right? Because during the day it's like there's a lot of things that can happen, right? That you might not expect. So I'm, preparing, every single day, even the night before, to be honest. But yeah, then usually I hit the field with a couple players, do my training sometime in the morning, do some gym work as well. And, just eating my foods, staying on top of my nutrition, and my recovery as well is super important, foam rolling, lacrosse ball foam rolling and stretching and yoga and breathing, right? Slowing things down and breathing um and and then usually sometimes as well in the afternoons I'm working on a footballer's faith, which is also my brand as well. So I help other footballers. I show a little bit of my journey, but I'm also helping other footballers grow and to dominate their game, their mindset, and to grow in their relationship with Jesus Christ too. So that faith aspect. So yeah, just enjoying all of those, and I have a team around me. So that right there is a typical day, I would say, and then a couple of days around the week I'm having meetings with whether that's my mindset coach or other guys, other like-minded guys around me, and yeah, having a good dinner as well in the evening, getting to bed, between 10:30 right now. That's where it is at the minute. So yeah.
Yeah, so obviously you still keeping it busy, training as much as possible. How does a day out of a team contrast to when you were playing in Northern Ireland or Sweden, for example?
In regards, so that right there is my being without a team, schedule, and like what the difference definitely is like you're not with a team. So like I'm not like going into a locker room, having a training, environment or a game on the weekend set for me, it's like, all right, you really gotta like, even on days that sometimes you don't really feel like doing it, it's like those are the days sometimes you really need to do it. It's just consistency. And the contrast is really like I get to choose every drill that I do, with my buddies here and with some other players here. I have to be more accountable on that, right? I have to be more on top of my nutrition, because I'm not obligated to a team right now. I think if I'm with a team, I'm more just by being with the team and doing my weigh-ins, at every session, I would, by default be, pretty much on my nutrition and stuff like that. But now without a team, I have to be very focused on that, because if I slip up even just a little bit on that, like, there's no one here to hold me accountable, so that is a big thing. And yeah, I mean, I think it gives me more time to work on other things as well, whether it's a footballer's faith and helping out others, giving back, whatever that is. So, but yeah, I'm just really looking forward to when I get back in that team environment, because it's a joy, being with other guys in the locker room, going through the ups and downs, whether that's within a training session with a full team, whether that's within a season, the ups and downs with your brothers, going to battle, and or falling short, quote unquote. So yeah, I would say those are the major differences, right? I don't have, a full team around me, or, a consistent, coaches around me. Just, making my drills and staying on top of that and tracking that.
Yeah, and I can imagine obviously not being with the team. I think throughout the, COVID period where everyone was in lockdown, I'm not sure if it was the same in America, but, training by yourself is fine. But actually, there's nothing like that team environment while training. I think, you made a great point about sometimes you don't want to do it, but it's the consistency that's quite difficult, and it's just getting it done that keeps you improving. But I think at times it is very difficult because you're more motivated when you're in a team environment. And personally, I feel that a lot. And it's just, you're right about the point where it's the days where you don't want to do it that you have to, and that's what's going to make you a better player.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, Yeah, and sometimes I've had to like figure out, because look, this is also, in a way, it's also a marathon too, right? And you know, you got to think about like the longevity of how long you want to play. And for me, like there was a time where it was just very tough. Like I felt like I was just running myself into the ground and beating my head against a wall. That's what the training felt like. So sometimes like you got to just be creative, right? And it's okay to some things that are fun, like it doesn't necessarily always have to. Yes, I'm very structured and disciplined and, want to go, with my routine and everything. But once in a while, it's okay to do, something else, because there's just one training I remember that was just I just wasn't having it that day. I was very frustrated and it was very difficult. I think the weather wasn't even that great that day either, and wasn't in the best of moods, right? So I was just like, all right, let's play the net game. It's basically like the crossbar challenge game, just to, you know, chill out a little bit, because the mind, if, your body is willing sometimes, but the mind is like, if it's not going, then the body won't really go, so you gotta, be smart on what you're going to do to keep this going, to keep this going throughout many years too, even just a particular single session, right? So yeah, take care of the mind, take care of the body, because it can be tough when you're training, just on your own or without a club, but yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The mental aspect obviously has a massive impact on the game, and I think the mental aspect sort of ties into this next question. And basically, how do you deal with pressure before a game?
Yeah. Well, for me, I would definitely say like just visualization. I think pressure is still like perspective, right? Like for me, like I I remember in particular, like there was this one time where I was I was at this, this off-season combine, and we were training throughout the week for a game at the end of the week, right? And the game was, it was a full game, under the lights, scouts there and whatnot. But I remember telling my coach, like my goalkeeper coach who was there, his name's Ryan Thompson, and fantastic guy. I was just like, man, it's just another day under the lights that we get to play kick a ball around, And I think by like saying like, man, I'm grateful that, I get to step on this pitch, that I'm healthy and able to do that, that I have my two legs, I have, two arms, two hands, eyes that can see, I could smell the grass on the pitch. I can enjoy it, with my brothers on this pitch, on this field for 90 minutes. I think when I change my perspective to that, the pressure eases off a lot. It's a challenge. It's an important game. It's not a pressurized situation. Um, and what I do is I prepare my mind. The night before, right? I visualize the game. I visualize what could go wrong. I write these things down, because that's sometimes what you know can make you flustered, if something happens that you've never seen before, right? Experience, right? You're talking about goalkeepers with experience, like Gigi Buffon. He's in his 40s, he's played many matches. There's not a lot of pressure for him, right? Because he's experienced, he's seen it all, World Cups, whatever. So if we've never experienced it before, can we experience it in our minds, So yeah, I prepare that, even if something goes wrong, but mostly, obviously, things going right and how I would like to play, and just praying, honestly, just praying to God, because, you know, there's, I know God can do anything, and I've built a relationship with God to where, like, I know that it's in his, whatever his will is what I'll do, in his plans, and, I, that doesn't mean like I won't take action on certain things or take control, but I know who's fully in control. And I think when you let God and let go, it's like, it's not, there's less pressure there. So for me, like, I get in the word, scriptures, just read some of those, because the promises that God's given us, that he's fulfilled and like continues to fulfill, is like, wow, like, I'm always just blown away. And like, I know from experience, that he will continue to be faithful. So yeah, just praying as well, and visualization, and yeah, I would say that, really preparing throughout the week. So
Yeah, definitely. And everyone has their sort of different methods, but it's like you said, just anything that prepares you, gets you ready. Don't just leave it to the last minute and on game day think, oh, I haven't done this, I haven't done that. Prepare, get ready for the challenge that's coming ahead, and just appreciate and be grateful for what you've got, because there comes like, football's a short career, it's not going to last forever. So you're right, you just have to be grateful for the little things and being able to go out onto the pitch, because it doesn't last forever.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. It could be your last game ever. I'm sure you'd approach that very differently, if so I think, like, if you just enjoy the game, and and yeah, enjoy the game, takes a lot of the pressure off.
Definitely. So you've touched on this a little bit, but what do you do to recover after a game or a tough training session?
Well, definitely, for one, is like, get a lot of water, really, like, I don't drink too much other types of liquids besides water and coffee, you know, um, because I know how important water is, for our bodies. Our bodies are made up by like a huge percentage of water. Um, so definitely, always having, water with me. Um, I, like you said, I touched upon it, definitely foam rolling, stretching, yoga, um, lacrosse ball, massaging. I actually have a massage gun as well. Use that as well, to get a little deeper, and get a good meal in. A good meal, with good amount of protein and vegetables. I think green vegetables have a lot of good nutrition and nutritious stuff in it. Um, so that's what obviously that's the goal, right? sometimes sometimes we don't. I don't get that type of meal in, but ideally I would, that's what I want, the protein, vegetables, some carbs, right? To recover, and take my vitamins as well, and relax. Sometimes you need to recover by just chilling out for 3-4 hours. That's okay. That's honestly okay. If you can train, then learn to shut things off, for a couple hours, and then if you want to go again, turn that switch back on. um so yeah, those are some of the things I do for recovery, on a pretty consistent basis. Now, on special occasions, I like using the Normatec boots, which massages the legs. And yeah.
Yeah, and I think the key ones you mentioned were obviously resting and water. And I think a misconception that a lot of people think is that foam rolling, contrast showers, ice baths are like the main things, when actually, hydration, sleep, the right nutrition, as you said, are the key parts. And I think that's a massive misconception that people don't normally understand. Do you follow a specific diet, or do you just sort of eat whatever feels right?
Right now, like, so I've tried different kind of diets and whatnot. But I honestly don't like diets because like I'm trying to have, something that is sustainable for basically like a lifetime, right? I don't want to go in certain like fads and whatnot. I know I mentioned intermittent fasting. I mean, I do that sometimes, most of the time actually, but it's person to person, and but for me in particular, right now I'm not on a specific diet, but I'm mostly just on, a lot of protein through my chicken, through eggs, and lots of vegetables, green vegetables. So, spinach and broccoli, um, and even, mixed veggies, right? Like cauliflower and whatnot. Um, Vegetables can actually be very filling, like, um, there's, sometimes I try to aim for 50% of what I'm eating in my meal is vegetables. That way, it can fill me, as well as it's not a lot of calories, as well as it's got some good fibers in it. And yeah, so that, and a lot of water, and my carbs, I personally stay away because I'm also a goalkeeper, right? So I'm going to be a little different than field players. Those guys are running around like crazy. I'm like a power and strength kind of guy, explosive, not running 9 miles in a match. So I might not necessarily need as many carbs as them. But I get a lot of my carbs from sweet potatoes. I just eat, sweet potato a day pretty much, So yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know a lot of people, follow certain diets, but I think, whatever feels right for the body is definitely the way to go.
Mhm.
So,
Definitely. Yeah. It's knowing your body, knowing your body, if this feels good, then if this food gives you energy, then by all means. If this one doesn't feel good, take note of it, right? Take note of it. I mean, I've had a nutrition diary before, where I would do that on certain foods, and just, you know, definitely do that. So,
yeah. So next one, what players do you aim to base your game off of?
yeah, I would say for me, because like my style, I would say Iker Casillas and Keylor Navas, both goalkeepers that aren't necessarily the biggest, but are very good with their feet, very quick off their lines, really good reactions, and good saves. They can make reliable saves when the time is needed. And so yeah, I would definitely say those two. I love Iker Casillas, man. Like, just what a career he had. Um, and unfortunate that he had the heart, um, you know, problems at the end of his career. But no, I really like him. So.
Yeah, definitely. And you've chosen some quite underrated keepers actually, because I think Keylor Navas is quite, not
Mhm.
identified as good as he is, and Casillas, I think I was probably one of the last. I think I'm probably one of the youngest people that can appreciate what he did at Real Madrid, because a lot of people don't realize now how good he was because they've only seen him at Porto and the issues he's had now with his heart attack, and they don't realize how great he was. So yeah, there's some great choices and definitely some unbelievable players to look up to.
Definitely. How old are you, by the way?
I'm 16.
Okay, nice. That's awesome. That the fact that you have your own podcast, and I was looking at your stuff, your own Instagram for this, as well as your own YouTube channel. Like, that is amazing at 16 years old, because like yeah, I mean, wow, like at 16 years old, I'm not doing this, so big ups to you on that. Like, and we're talking across the ocean right now too.
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Hmm.
So this is another, well, I'm not sure if this is a misconception. This is why I'm asking you it. So being a goalkeeper is actually often described as one of the loneliest roles in football. Would you say you agree with that? And if so, is it quite difficult at times?
Um, yeah, I would say like you have to be very like it is a different role, a very different role, because within a 90-minute match, right? The margin for error is so tiny, but at the same time, like you don't get all of the glory when you do make those saves. If you win 1-0 or 2-1, let's say you win 2-1 and the one goal you made was a terrible mistake, but you made 3-4 amazing saves. That one goal might be highlighted, and but the striker who scored the goal, they're the one who's man of the match. Even though that same striker missed 3 or 4 clear chances. Um, yeah, I would say like because of the margin of error, because of the focus that is really needed throughout a game, throughout a season, right? And just the understanding, right? Like the understanding, it's a very different position, um, compared to field players. And, um, I think like that it can be lonely at times, right? Like you said, is it the loneliest position? Because whether you have media or coaches or people criticizing you for maybe a play or whatever, that it can be very tough. Um, so yeah, I mean, what was there any other part of the question that you asked?
How do you sort of deal with because like you said, there is a low margin for error. So how do you deal with sort of the extra pressure mounted on top of you for being a goalkeeper?
Yeah, well, for one, I would definitely say like just kind of making a little spin on it, enjoying it. Like you can have a little banter with guys, the guys, whether they want to like make fun of goalkeepers or anything like that. Like they're just jealous, because they're the ones that want the gloves too, deep down inside. I mean, have a little fun with it sometimes, um that would be one. And then two, I would say like it comes down back to my faith, like I was saying, because like you know even though like if you're back there, it's like and you're the only one in the match, like if you make a mistake, you just want to like there's no hiding, right? You make a mistake in a game, the cameras are on you, or everyone pre-COVID obviously could see, that you made a mistake. They can criticize, behind their phones, but like I'm not alone, like God is always with me, wherever I go. So like um yeah, I'd definitely say my faith really helps me, because um yeah, I mean if he is always with me, so I got nothing, nothing to be afraid of in regards to what man can do. So just reminding myself of the promises of God, and yeah, and third as well, I think a third one sometimes, but most of the time is pretty good, is the goalkeepers union, because we understand each other's position and how it can be a tough position, is building a good relationship with your other goalkeepers and your goalkeeper coach, so you guys have each other's back as well. So
Definitely. Yeah. So what are your long-term and short-term targets football wise, of course.
Mm-hmm. All right. So for short term right now is to sign with my next club. So I'm actually got an offer and looking to sign with a club right now. And I'll announce that when that, goes through and everything. But that's my short term, signing with my new team and playing games regularly again and really progressing in that. Long term. So long term, um, man, it's just playing at, continuing to play, but just even at the highest level that I can play at, um, whether that's here in the US, I go back to when I was 15 years old and a ball boy at the game behind the goalkeeper's net at DC United. And I mean, that would be my goal, is to play on that field. Obviously it's no longer RFK Stadium. They got a new stadium here, Audi Field. But that would be my long-term goal, is to play there and be very, do very well, So, yeah.
Yeah, there's some great goals, and I think it's always something to look, keep looking into the future. Obviously, you want to stay in the present moment and focus on bettering yourself right now. But I think, experiencing it as a child and thinking, right, I want to come back to that place, but in that dream position that I was thinking about as a 15-year-old. So yeah, I think there's some really good goals that could definitely be achieved.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's important to understand, like, as well, like, your mindset on setting certain goals. Obviously you want to be realistic as well, but at the same time, my perspective is, as well, as like, what else are you going to do in this life? Like, what else do you have to do? What else is so important that you can't go after what you really want to go after? Um, it's the one who says he can and the one who says he can't are both usually right, so if you really believe and back it up by what you're doing and your action and who you're becoming in the process, you can really achieve, uh, dare I say, anything. I mean, you can just see all the people that have achieved very tough things that people even said was impossible. I don't know if you've heard of, like, Roger Bannister, the guy who broke the 4-minute mile. It was before anyone had ever broken the 4-minute mile, and everyone said it would be impossible. 4-minute mile. It's not kilometer, it's a mile. So, the world record was not under 4 minutes. And even doctors said, that if you did break that, your heart would, like, explode, like it would explode. They literally said that because they said it was impossible. Well, he broke the 4-minute mile himself. He ended up doing it. He beat it. And on top of it, after he broke it, many more people broke it. The progress, like, very not too long after. And the reason why was because of the belief, right? The belief system. Like, people thought it was impossible until someone did it, So I think it's good to have realistic goals, but I also think it's good to have bigger goals that stretch you, that stretch you, because, like, again, like, what else do you got to do during this lifetime? I mean, I'd rather, like, go after something that people say is too hard or too far out of stretch than to just settle, and I understand too, like, I'll listen, like, with I'll listen, I mean, if someone has, good advice, sure, I'll take it. I mean, in regards to playing football, like you even can see it, Gigi Buffon is playing at 42, right? I think he's 42, and guys are still playing. If you want to talk about American football, you got Tom Brady playing 43, maybe. I don't know, 42. And he just won a Super Bowl, and this is a guy who is not very athletic coming out of college. Scouts didn't think he was gonna have anything of a career. So, you know, it comes from the mindset, right? And who are you becoming in the process? Is is uh is really what's pretty much more important actually than achieving the result, so yeah.
Definitely. And I think, we've touched on it multiple times, but the mindset really is the key thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Exactly.
yeah. Two more questions. Thank you so much for your time. Would you ever consider going into a coaching or managerial role after your footballing career is over?
Yeah, I would consider that. I love being around the game. I love helping others, and I just love the sport. So yeah, I could definitely see myself doing that as well. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not so sure yet. So yeah.
Yeah. And final question. This is normally the one where the listeners get the most insight. So, what are 3 pieces of advice you would give to a young player looking to make it as a professional footballer?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say one is like, okay, so 3 pieces of advice I would definitely say is like, one, like I was pretty much saying before, is like you can definitely like do whatever you want in this life, but you're gonna have to uh work for it. You have to work very hard for it. Um and my advice in this first piece of advice is like, if you want to be at the professional level, then you got to like embody it every single day, right? And that like kind of make it who you are. And now I'm talking a little bit about identity here as the first piece of advice here. Is I'm not saying you are a footballer as your identity, but the mannerism that you carry yourself, the professionalism that you carry yourself in, as well as like your discipline and your routines, that other people who look at you or that are around you, your closest people that see you, they say, oh, this guy's professional, the way he carries himself, or she. So for one, I would definitely say, um, be very professional in what you do, and that you can really achieve anything that you set yourself out to with that. Number two, I would say is um, advice for the guy who wants to play professional. I would definitely say number two is, and I've talked about it a little bit earlier today as well, is having your foundation and identity in something that can never be taken away from you. Okay? Because like I said, like for me, football, it could be taken away from me at a moment in time, right? Maybe for, if let's say I got injured for a year or whatnot. But what is my foundation no matter what? Who am I? Who are you? Right? So for me, I'm a child of God, right? I have my foundation in God, and something that is, eternal. you know, something that can never be taken away, you know. It could be your habits or your routines, but have that foundation. Find that foundation of who you are as a person, and have that identity in something that can never be taken away in life, even, you know. That's, now we're even being a little broad, like bigger perspective there. And then 3, just enjoy the journey. Enjoy it. You know, sometimes we get so stuck up on boom, 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 boom. Like, I need to achieve this goal. I need to do 100 shots today. I need to do 300 passes. I need to do 20 sprints. I need to do the gym here, this. But then you're doing it so much to where you get burnt out, right? Again, like I was saying, it's a marathon and not a sprint. So this third piece of advice is enjoy it, because there's gonna be so many incredible memories, relationships, lifelong relationships that you can build, you know, from it, you know, just from, you know, with your teammates, with your coaches, with your trainers, with everything, you know. So it's like, remember why you started, you know, because you love the game, you know. So yeah, enjoy it.
Definitely, and those are 3 very good pieces of advice that I think everyone can take on board. And that's all the questions I have for you. So thanks again for coming on, John. I think the listeners obviously can take a lot from your story, your journey, and the advice you've given. So I appreciate you taking the time to come on and telling us about your career. So if you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.